Welcome to this edition of Training Minutes from Fire Engineering. My name is Clinton Kraft. I'm a battalion chief with the Fishers Fire Department. And today we're going to talk about the modified dash lift. We did a little bit of work on this car beforehand to go ahead and expose the components that we want to make sure everybody understands. As we look at it, when we make our relief cuts, which we'll talk about in a second, the intent is to lift the entire dash up and away from our patient, where we might have lower limb entrapment or pedal entrapment on the driver's side. And the key component that we're looking at is this transverse beam that runs from side to side, from A post to A post, just under the dash. Now in newer cars, we're starting to see that the dash is just clipped into place and that the transverse beam might not be bolted through like it is on this car. But in most, we're still seeing this bolt through. So if we don't capture this connection point and lift up and away, we'll really just be displacing a lot of plastic here and not really accomplishing what we want in the time that we want to accomplish it. So what we're going to do is take step by step and go through each of the different cuts and show them as we go. But what it'll be, the A post has been completely removed in this example. In an upcoming segment, we'll show the entire operation without any of this clearing done beforehand. But what we need to do is chunk the A post. We're going to take about a 4-inch section out of the A post. If we don't, as the A post starts to move, it can jam up on itself again. So we've got to make sure that that's eliminated so it doesn't jam on itself. We're going to make relief cuts at the bottom of the A post. We'd like to make this as thorough a cut as we possibly can. And then we're going to come up and cut the frame rail itself behind the shock tower or the strut tower, but before the firewall. In this particular car, it gives us a little space here that we'll be able to do that and make that cut through and through if we can do that as well. So for our first cut, we're going to make a cut lower on the A post. Now, traditionally when we did dash rolls, we would always cut down at the bottom at the pivot. But here we want to have something to press against. So we're going to make a cut where there's a natural opening. The wire chase has already given us some of that relief. And we're going to make sure that that cut is above the hinge point. That gives us a lot of metal to press against as we make the lift here in just a little bit. So we'll make our relief cut here. And if we can, we'll go ahead and make 2 cuts, one through and through from the door side and then one through and through perpendicular to make sure that we get all the way through that A post. If we don't make that cut all the way or we can't access it, it will stretch that metal a little bit, it'll pivot a little bit, but it won't tear like we want it to. For the next cut, we're looking at the frame rail. Again, behind the strut or the shock tower, but before the firewall. So right in here is where we're going to need to make this cut. If we have this good exposure, if we've taken the panel out of the way to really get in there to make this cut and make a good clean cut, it'll lift right in the direction that we want to. If we don't get all the way through, again, it's going to pivot a little or tear a little bit. We'll still get lift, but not as much as we want. Now we've already discussed taking a chunk out of the A post. Just a little exaggerated because we've removed it so we can see everything. You really just need about a 2 to 4 inch section out so that it doesn't jam against itself as we start the lift. The next step is bring the spreaders in and let's show you what our lift will do. As we spread, we want to make sure that we're in constant contact with the ground, so we've got cribbing right under the post. And we'll start to spread up. The object is to get from the lower A post to the transverse beam. As we see with this lift, the beam is capturing and taking the dash all the way across. And it's giving us all kinds of space underneath that dash, underneath the glove box for where we need to make that access. By bringing the tool in perpendicular, we allow ourselves a route of access if we don't want to let the tool back down and keep that space. We've got plenty of space here. We don't have to fight over the tool or around the tool. The other thing to consider is on some cars, at the transmission hump, we could have straps that hold that in place. If we can get to those and clip those, that makes this dash lift go all the way across a lot easier. If not, it'll tend to tear and come up just a little bit on the side that you're working on. But if that's all you're after is that access, then that'll work too. Now let's go ahead and take the tool out. Good, perfect. So as a summary, looking at the modified dash lift, even with the tool out, we can see how much space we've created here throughout the patient compartment to be able to really free up any kind of entrapment we might have down there. As we look, we can see where that steel is doubled up for the hinge plate that gives us that really good lift point if we go above the hinge. We want to thank Helmantro, our sponsor for this section of Training Minutes. My name is Clint Crafton with Advanced Rescue Solutions, and thanks for watching Fire Engineering's Training Minutes.